Hello, my good friends. How are you today? May God bless you all. I will not introduce anything. You guys watch the video and feel it. Then let's evaluate together. The clock on Amara Jones's kitchen counter blinked. 11:47 p.m. Its red digits casting a faint glow over the cluttered space. The air smelled of chicory coffee, long gone cold, and the faint hum of a Louis Armstrong tune drifted from a Bluetooth speaker perched on a shelf. Amara, 40 and bone-tired, hunched over her laptop at the small wooden table in her Bywater apartment, her eyes stinging from a day of grading papers and a night of wrestling with her food blog, Soulful Bites. Her braids were pulled into a messy bun, and her oversized two-lane sweatshirt had a smudge of tomato sauce from dinner. She muttered to herself, fingers hovering over the keyboard. Focus, Amara. Just finish the dang grocery list. Her sister's birthday was coming up, and Amara had promised to make their mama's gumbo, a rich, smoky Creole dish that had been the heart of every family gathering before Mama passed 3 years ago. The recipe was sacred tome, tuibok sang de haute cayenne, and a pinch of love, as Mama used to say. Amara typed the last items. Fresh okra, not frozen. Andouille sausage, the good kind from that butcher on St. Claude. Her eyelids drooped heavy with exhaustion. She hit send, emailing the list to herself, and snapped the laptop shut. Tomorrow's another day, she whispered, stumbling toward her bedroom without checking if the email went through. The apartment, a cozy 2-bedroom with creaky floors and walls adorned with prints from the French Quarter Market, felt like a hug as she flicked off the lights. Outside, the distant wail of a saxophone carried through the humid New Orleans night. Morning came too fast. Amara's alarm blared at 6:30 a.m., dragging her from a dream about Mama's kitchen. She groaned, rolling out of bed and into her routine, a quick shower, a granola bar snatched from the counter, and a glance at her reflection in the hallway mirror. Her deep brown skin glowed under the morning light, but the bags under her eyes told the story of too many late nights. You got this, she told herself, adjusting her glasses and grabbing her tote bag stuffed with ungraded essays. Thursday meant teaching at Trem High, subbing for Ms. Dubois's English class. The kids kept her on her toes, their energy a mix of chaos and charm. Ms. Jones, you finished grading our papers yet? Asked Kayla, a bright-eyed junior with a knack for poetry. Almost there, girl. Amara lied, flashing a smile. The essays were still buried in her bag, untouched. You'll get 'em tomorrow, promise. The day passed in a blur of Shakespeare discussions and grammar lessons, the classroom buzzing with the chatter of teenagers and the occasional whir of a ceiling fan. By 3 p.m., Amara was ready to tackle her grocery shopping for the gumbo. She pulled out her phone to check the list, but her inbox was empty. That's weird, she muttered, scrolling through her emails. Nothing. She checked her sent folder and froze. The email hadn't gone to Amara Jones at gmail.com, mail to Amara Jones at gmail.com. In her half-asleep haze, she typed H. Kesler at Kesler Enterprises.com, mail to H. Kesler at Kesler Enterprises.com. Her heart sank. She had no clue who H. Kesler was, but they probably weren't thrilled about getting her random grocery list. Great job, Amara, she sighed, shaking her head. They'll just delete it, right? Shrugging it off, she headed to the market on St. Claude, piecing together the ingredients from memory. The Bywater was alive with its usual rhythm. Street musicians, strumming guitars, vendors hawking pralines, and the faint scent of crawfish boils drifting from corner restaurants. Amara's arms were loaded with grocery bags when she climbed the steps to her apartment, fumbling with her keys. The rent here was manageable on her teacher's salary, but the place was nothing fancy. Peeling paint on the porch, a temperamental AC unit, and a fridge covered in magnets from local jazz fests. She'd just set the bags on the counter when a knock sounded at the door. Coming, she called, assuming it was Mrs. Thibodeau from next door, probably needing sugar again. But when she swung the door open, it wasn't her elderly neighbor. A tall man stood there impeccably dressed in a tailored navy blazer and crisp white shirt, holding a reusable grocery tote. His dark hair was neatly combed and his hazel eyes held a flicker of uncertainty, softening an otherwise serious face. "Amara Jones?" he asked, his voice deep and smooth with a hint of a southern drawl. Yeah," Amara replied, gripping the doorframe, suddenly aware of her wrinkled jeans and sauce-stained sweatshirt. "Who are you?" "I'm Hayden Kesler," he said, as if that explained everything. When she stared blankly, he lifted the tote bag. "You emailed me your grocery list." Amara's hand flew to her mouth. "Oh, my lord, I'm so sorry I was half dead last night. And wait." She paused, eyeing the bag. "Is that my groceries?" Hayden nodded, a small smile tugging at his lips. "Every item on the list. Though I had to hit 3 stores to find fresh okra this time of year." Amara blinked, certain she was dreaming Hayden Kesler. The Hayden Kesler, the billionaire CEO of Kesler Enterprises, whose name popped up in the business section of the Times-Picayune, standing at her door with groceries. "You brought my groceries," she repeated, her voice climbing an octave. "Why didn't you just delete the email I was going to?" Hayden admitted, shifting his weight. "But then I saw the subject line, Mama's Gumbo Night. It reminded me of my nonna. She was Creole, the only one who ever taught me anything about cooking." His expression softened, and for a moment he didn't look like a CEO, just a guy holding a bag of shrimp and sausage. Amara stood frozen, her mind racing. This was insane. Billionaires didn't show up at random apartments in the Bywater, but something about his eyes, a quiet sincerity, made her step aside. "All right, Mr. Kesler, come on in, but I'm warning you, I've never cooked for a billionaire before, Hayden. Please," he corrected, stepping inside. "And I've never watched a food blogger cook before, so we're even." Amara's apartment felt smaller with Hayden in it. Her coffee table was buried under stacks of student essays and food photography props, vintage plates, linen napkins spilled across the living room. The kitchen was functional but basic, with a chipped tile backsplash and a stove that took forever to heat. "It's not much," she said, gesturing apologetically. "It's a home," Hayden replied, setting the tote on the counter. "Mine's bigger, but it's not this lived in." Amara raised an eyebrow, unpacking the groceries. Fresh okra and dual sausage, even the exact brand of cayenne she'd listed. "You went all out, huh? This stuff ain't cheap. I figured if you're making your mama's gumbo, it's gotta be done right," Hayden said, rolling up his sleeves. His polished loafers looked comically out of place next to her scuffed sneakers. "So what's the plan?" "We're making gumbo," Amara said, handing him a knife. "You ever chopped onions before, or do billionaires have people for that?" Hayden chuckled, a low, warm sound. "I manage my own coffee, but onions, first time." "Then you're in for a ride," Amara said, tying on her apron. She turned up the music, letting Ella Fitzgerald's voice fill the room, and got to work. Hayden followed her instructions, his cut slow and precise like he was performing surgery. Amara bit back a laugh. "Loosen up, man. You're not signing a merger." "I'm trying," Hayden said, frowning at the onion. "This is harder than it looks." They moved through the recipe, Amara stirring the roux, a careful blend of flour and oil, while Hayden diced sausage. The kitchen filled with the rich, nutty aroma of the roux, mingling with the sharp tang of onions and the spice of cayenne. Amara felt herself relax, the rhythm of cooking, pulling her into a familiar groove. Hayden, though, was a fish out of water. His brow furrowed in concentration. "You don't cook much, do you?" she asked, watching him wrestle with a bell pepper. "I have a chef," he admitted, glancing up. "It's been years since I made anything more complicated than toast." Amara shook her head, grinning. "And yet here you are, risking your fancy suit for gumbo. Why?" Hayden paused, his knife hovering. "Your email." It felt real. My days are full of people wanting something. Deals, favors, headlines. Your list just wanted okra and sausage. It made me smile. Amara's heart gave a little thud. She wasn't sure what to make of that, so she focused on the roux, stirring steadily. But then disaster struck. Hayden, distracted by a question about cayenne, left the roux unattended for a moment too long. A wisp of smoke curled up and the fire alarm shrieked, piercing the air. "Oh, shoot!" Amara yelped, grabbing a dish towel to fan the smoke. Hayden froze, wide-eyed, as the pot hissed. "Open the window, quick!" He scrambled to the window, yanking it open while Amara doused the burner. The alarm wailed on and they stumbled out onto the porch, coughing and laughing. The night air was thick with humidity and the streetlights cast a golden glow over the Bywater's colorful shotgun houses. Somewhere nearby, a trumpet played a lazy jazz riff. "Well, that was a first," Hayden said, running a hand through his hair. His blazer was dusted with flour and his face was flushed. "Did I just ruin your mama's gumbo?" Amara doubled over, laughing so hard her sides ached. "You didn't ruin it, but you sure tried. That roux is toast, though." She straightened, catching her breath, and found Hayden watching her, his smile soft and unguarded. For a moment they stood there, the chaos of the kitchen forgotten, the world narrowing to just the two of them, under the New Orleans sky. Without thinking, she stepped closer, and he met her halfway, wrapping her in a quick, warm hug. His shirt smelled of smoke and cologne, and her heart raced. "Thanks for not kicking me out," he murmured against her hair. "Thanks for the groceries," she replied, pulling back with a grin. "But next time you're on dish duty." They went back inside. The alarm finally silenced and salvaged what they could of the gumbo. It wasn't perfect, but when they sat down at Amara's tiny table, the flavors, smoky, spicy, soulful, brought back memories of Mama's kitchen. Hayden took a bite and closed his eyes. "This is incredible," he said. "Your mama was a genius. She'd have liked you," Amara said, then caught herself. Why had she said that? She barely knew this man, but something about him, his awkward knife skills, his quiet sincerity felt right. The moment was interrupted by another knock at the door. Amara opened it to find Jasper Coleman, her friend, and a chef at a hotshot restaurant in the Quarter. Jasper, 35, and built like a linebacker, held a mason jar of homemade spice blend, his dreads tied back with a bandana. "Yo, Amara, I made you some whoa. What's that smell? You burned something." His eyes landed on Hayden, and his grin turned sly. "And who's this? You got a personal shopper now?" Amara rolled her eyes. "Jasper, meet Hayden, he brought groceries." "Hayden, this is Jasper, my friend who thinks he's the king of Creole cooking." Hayden stood, offering a handshake. "Nice to meet you." "And yeah, I might have set off the fire alarm." Jasper laughed, clapping Hayden on the shoulder. "Man, you're brave, stepping into Amara's kitchen." "She don't play." He handed Amara the jar. "This is for your next blog post. Call me when you're ready to film that cornbread video." He winked, but his gaze lingered on Hayden a beat too long before he left. Amara shut the door, catching Hayden's curious look. "Jasper's just protective," she said, waving it off. "He's been trying to get me on his YouTube channel forever." "He seems nice," Hayden said, but there was a hint of something jealousy in his tone. Amara let it slide, not ready to unpack whatever that was. Hayden glanced at his watch. "I should go. Early meeting tomorrow. But can I come back? Maybe try not to burn the place down." Amara hesitated, then smiled. "Sure. Next week I'm making étouffée for the blog. Bring wine, not groceries this time. Deal." Hayden said, his face lighting up. At the door he paused. "Thanks for tonight, Amara. It's been a while since I've laughed like that." She watched him disappear down the steps, her heart doing a funny little flip. Back inside, she cleaned up the kitchen, replaying the night in her head. Hayden Kesler, of all people, in her kitchen. It was absurd. But as she crawled into bed, the memory of his hug under the streetlights warmed her like a bowl of gumbo on a chilly night. The next evening, Hayden invited her to a charity gala in the Garden District, a world away from her bywater bubble. Amara felt out of place in her thrift store dress, surrounded by glittering chandeliers and people sipping champagne like it was water. Then she met Talia Monroe, a sleek PR exec with flawless makeup and a smile that didn't reach her eyes. "Amara, right?" Talia purred, extending a manicured hand. "I'm Talia Hayden's close friend." Her tone dripped with implication. Before Amara could respond, Talia accidentally bumped her glass, splashing red wine across Amara's dress. "Oh, darling, I'm so sorry. That dress is so unique. Thrift store chic." Amara's cheeks burned, but she forced a smile. "Don't worry, Talia. Wine pairs well with my Creole vibe." She excused herself, catching Hayden's concerned glance across the room. As she dabbed at the stain in the bathroom, doubt crept in. What was she doing in Hayden's world? Back home. Amara lay awake, her mind a tangle of questions. Hayden's smile. Jasper's teasing. Talia's barb. They swirled together like the spices in her gumbo. She opened her laptop, checking soulful bites. A new comment caught her eye. "That gumbo recipe is fire. Keep cooking, girl." She smiled, but her thoughts drifted to Hayden. Could a teacher and a billionaire really make sense? Or was this just a recipe for heartbreak? Hey y'all, if you're loving Amara and Hayden's story, hit that subscribe button and drop a comment with your favorite Creole dish, gumbo, jambalaya, or maybe some beignets. Let's keep this New Orleans vibe going and see where their journey takes us next. Amara Jones stood in her bywater kitchen, the late afternoon sun spilling through the window and painting the chip tile backsplash in gold. The air smelled of cinnamon and vanilla, and a Nina Simone tune hummed softly from her Bluetooth speaker. It was Tuesday, and Hayden Kesler was due any minute for their next cooking session. After last week's gumbo disaster, complete with a burnt roux and a fire alarm serenade, Amara couldn't stop thinking about him, his awkward knife skills, his quiet smile, the way his hug had felt under the bywater streetlights. It was ridiculous. Billionaires didn't just waltz into your life with groceries, right? She adjusted her apron, a faded hand-me-down from her mama, and checked the ingredients on the counter. Ripe peaches, flour, sugar, and a stick of butter so cold it could double as a weapon. Tonight's plan was peach cobbler, a dessert that always reminded her of summer evenings on her parents' porch in Algiers. Fireflies dancing and Mama's laughter filling the air. Amara had promised a recipe for her blog. Soulful bites, and Hayden had insisted on helping. "I owe you after the roux fiasco," he'd texted with a winking emoji that made her stomach flip. A knock at the door snapped her out of her thoughts. She opened it to find Hayden looking less CEO and more human, in dark jeans and a light blue button-down sleeves already rolled up. He held a bottle of white wine, his hazel eyes crinkling at the corners. "Right on time," Amara said, stepping aside. "You're learning." "Always," Hayden replied, handing her the wine. "Heard this pairs well with cobbler. Did I pass the test?" Amara grinned, inspecting the label. A crisp Sauvignon Blanc. "Not bad. Kesler, but let's see if you can handle a rolling pin." She led him to the kitchen where the counter was a controlled chaos of bowls and measuring cups. Her radio switched to a lively Zydeco beat. Accordion notes bouncing through the room. The space felt smaller with Hayden in it, his broad shoulders brushing against hers as they maneuvered around the tiny island. "All right, chef," Amara said, tossing him an apron. "We're making my mama's peach cobbler. It's simple but sacred, so no burning anything this time." Hayden tied on the apron, which was comically small on him. "No promises, but I'll try not to set off the alarm again." He picked up a peach, turning it over like it was a puzzle. "Where do we start?" "Peeling," Amara said, handing him a paring knife. "Just take it slow. You're not signing a billion-dollar deal here." Hayden chuckled, his laugh low and warm. "You'd be surprised how much easier deals are than this." He started peeling, his movements careful but clumsy, bits of peach skin sticking to his fingers. Amara watched, biting back a smile. For a man who ran a tech empire, he was hopeless in the kitchen and weirdly endearing because of it. They fell into a rhythm, Amara mixing the dough while Hayden tackled the peaches. The kitchen filled with the sweet, juicy scent of fruit and the buttery promise of pastry. Nina Simone gave way to Louis Armstrong, his gravelly voice crooning about love and moonlight. Amara felt herself relax, the stress of teaching and blogging melting away. Hayden, too, seemed looser, his usual guarded demeanor softening as he fumbled with the knife. "You don't cook much, do you?" Amara asked, stirring sugar into the peaches. "Not since I was a kid," Hayden admitted, glancing up. "My nonna tried to teach me, but I was too busy sneaking cookies to pay attention. Now I've got a chef who handles everything." Amara shook her head, mock horrified. "A chef? That's just sad. You're missing out on the soul of food." "Maybe," Hayden said, his eyes meeting hers. "But I'm learning now, thanks to you." Her cheeks warmed and she focused on the dough to hide it. "Flattery won't save you if this cobbler flops. Come on, let's roll this out." She sprinkled flour on the counter, handing him the rolling pin. "Gentle, like you're petting a cat." Hayden raised an eyebrow. "I don't have a cat, figures," Amara teased. "Just don't muscle it, or the crust'll be tougher than a Mardi Gras float." He tried, but his hands were too stiff, pressing the dough into a lumpy mess. Amara laughed, stepping behind him. "Here like this." She placed her hands over his, guiding the rolling pin in smooth, even strokes. Her chest brushed his back, and she caught the faint scent of his cologne sandalwood, and something crisp. The air between them thickened, charged with an unspoken pull. Flour dusted her fingers, and when she glanced up, a smudge had landed on her cheek. Hayden turned his face inches from hers. "You've got—" He reached out, brushing the flour away with his thumb, but his touch lingered, leaving a new streak. His eyes locked on hers, soft and searching. Amara's heart thudded. She could have stepped back, but instead she leaned in, closing the gap. Their lips met in a slow, sweet kiss, tasting of peaches and possibility. Her hands slid to his shoulders, his to her waist, and for a moment the world was just them, the Zydeco beat fading into the background. But then, Amara pulled back, a grin breaking through. "If you burn this cobbler, Kesler, I'm not forgiving you." Hayden laughed, his face flushed. "Fair deal, but I'm blaming you for distracting me." They finished the cobbler, sliding it into the oven with a shared sense of triumph. As it baked, filling the apartment with a warm, buttery aroma, they sipped wine and talked about her students, his green energy, projects, their shared love of old jazz records. Amara found herself opening up, telling him about her dream to turn Soulful Bites into a full-time gig. "It's a long shot," she said, swirling her glass. "Blogging pays for groceries, but not rent." "Your recipes are incredible," Hayden said, leaning forward. "Have you thought about a cookbook or a cooking show? You've got the passion for it." Amara nearly choked on her wine. "A cookbook? You been reading my blog or something?" Hayden's cheeks reddened. "Maybe Soulful Bites is pretty great. That post about your mama's Sunday dinners. It hit me right here." He tapped his chest, his voice soft. "Reminded me of Nonna's kitchen." She stared, stunned. A billionaire reading her blog. Before she could respond, the oven timer dinged, saving her from her flustered thoughts. The cobbler emerged, golden and bubbling, and when they dug in, the first bite was pure magic, sweet, tangy with a crust that melted on the tongue. Mama would approve. Amara said, her eyes misty. Hayden took a bite and groaned. I helped make this. I'm framing this recipe. Their laughter was cut short by a text from Nia Carter, Amara's best friend. Girl, you at home. Got drama to spill, Amara typed back. Cooking with Hayden. Come by. Nia's reply was instant. The billionaire. I'm there in 10. True to her word. Nia burst through the door, her curls bouncing and her energy filling the room. Amara Jones, you got some explaining to do, she said, eyeing Hayden. You're the grocery guy. Huh. Nice to meet you, Mr. Billionaire. I'm Nia, Amara's keeper of secrets. Hayden shook her hand, amused. Hayden, and I'm more like Amara's kitchen disaster assistant. Nia cackled, helping herself to a scoop of cobbler. This is fire, y'all. But Amara, we gotta talk about that Gala. Word is Talia. Monroe's got her claws out for your man here. Amara's stomach twisted. Talia. What's she up to now? Nia leaned in, lowering her voice. She's telling everyone she and Hayden are reconnecting. Saw her cozying up to him at some fancy lunch yesterday. Thought you should know. Hayden frowned, setting down his fork. That's news to me. I haven't spoken to Talia since the Gala. Amara forced a smile, but doubt gnawed at her. Talia's wine-spilling stunt had already left a bad taste, and now this. She changed the subject, but the mood had shifted. Nia left soon after, promising to call later, and Hayden lingered, sensing her unease. Amara about Talia. It's fine, she cut him off, not ready to dive into it. Thanks for tonight. I'll see you soon. He nodded, his eyes searching hers. Friday. I'll bring dessert this time. Deal, she said, closing the door behind him. But as she cleaned up, Nia's words echoed. Talia wasn't the only thing bothering her. At school the next day, a colleague, Mrs. Landry, cornered her in the teacher's lounge. Heard you're cozy with Hayden Kesler, she said, her tone dripping with judgment. You really think a man like that's serious about a teacher like you? Amara's jaw tightened. I don't need your approval to know my worth. Mrs. Landry. She walked away, but the words stung. Later at the French Quarter Market, she ran into Jasper Coleman, who was picking up shrimp for his restaurant. Heard you're cooking with that billionaire, he said, his grin playful but his eyes guarded. He treating you right. He's trying, Amara said, forcing a laugh. You still want me for that cornbread video? Heck yeah, Jasper said. Let's film tomorrow. My channel needs some of your magic. They set a time, but as Amara headed home, her mind churned. Hayden was kind, funny, real, but his world was so different. Could she fit in it? The cornbread shoot was a mess, in the best way. Jasper's kitchen at his restaurant was a whirlwind of stainless steel and sizzling pans. Amara wore her favorite head wrap, her confidence shining as she mixed batter. Jasper, ever the showman, narrated for the camera. But his flair got the better of him. He swung a skillet too fast, and it slipped clattering to the floor with a bang. That's my new style, he shouted, scrambling to recover modern Creole chaos. Amara doubled over laughing as the crew lost it. Jasper, you're a hazard. The video wrapped with them both covered in flour, their chemistry easy and warm. But when Jasper hugged her goodbye, his arms lingered a second too long. You know I got your back right, he said softly. I know, Amara said, squeezing his hand. Your family. That night she got a text from Hayden. Saw your video with Jasper. You two looked good together. The words hit like a jab. Was he jealous? She typed back. Just friends. You still bringing dessert Friday? His reply was quick. Wouldn't miss it. But I'm watching that Coleman guy. She laughed, but unease settled in her chest. Friday came, and Amara was a bundle of nerves. She'd cleaned her apartment twice. swapped outfits 3 times, and prepped ingredients for étouffée with surgical precision. Hayden arrived with a box of beignets from Café du Monde, his smile chasing away her doubts. They cooked, laughed, and danced to Zydeco in her tiny kitchen, but Nia's warning about Talia lingered. Then a notification popped up on Amara's phone, an invite to a cocktail party in Uptown, supposedly from Hayden's assistant. "You didn't mention a party," she said, showing him the message. Hayden's brow furrowed. "I didn't send that." He pulled out his phone, his expression darkening. "This has Talia written all over it." Amara's heart sank. She went to the party anyway, hoping to clear the air. The venue was a glittering mansion, all chandeliers and polished floors. Hayden was there, but so was Talia, hanging on his arm like she owned him. She caught Amara's eye and smirked, leaning in to whisper something to Hayden. He laughed oblivious, and Amara's chest tightened. She left without a word, the humid night air doing little to cool her anger. Back home, she sat with Nia at a magazine street cafe, the clink of coffee cups mingling with the buzz of conversation. "I thought he was different," Amara said, stirring her latte. "But maybe Mrs. Landry's right. Maybe I don't belong in his world." Nia reached across the table, squeezing her hand. "You're Amara freaking Jones. You belong anywhere you choose, but don't let Talia play you. Talk to Hayden. If he's worth it, he'll prove it." Amara nodded, her resolve hardening. She'd give Hayden a chance to explain, but her heart was on guard. As she walked home, the New Orleans night wrapped around her trumpets, wailing streetlights glowing the city, whispering that love like gumbo took time and trust to get right. The New Orleans sky was a bruised purple, heavy with the promise of rain, as Amara Jones stepped out of Treme High on Friday afternoon. The air smelled of damp earth and magnolias, and the distant rumble of thunder echoed the storm brewing in her chest. Last night's cocktail party in Uptown had left her rattled. Talia Monroe clinging to Hayden Kesler's arm, her smirk sharp as a butcher's knife, and Hayden's oblivious laugh cutting deeper than Amara wanted to admit. She'd left without a word, her thrift store heels clicking on the mansion's polished floors, and now she was second-guessing everything. Was Hayden playing her, or was Talia just stirring the pot? Her phone buzzed as she walked to her car, a beat-up Honda parked under a sagging oak tree. A text from Hayden. "Amara, I'm so sorry about last night. Talia set that up. Can we talk? I'm free tonight." She stared at the screen, her thumb hovering over the reply button. Part of her wanted to ignore him to protect her heart from whatever game this was. But another part, the part that remembered his flour-dusted hands and soft smile in her kitchen, urged her to hear him out. She typed back, "Fine, my place. 7, bring answers, not wine." The drive home to Bywater was a blur of neon signs and street musicians, the city pulsing with its usual Friday night energy. Amara's apartment greeted her like an old friend. Creaky floors, walls plastered with French Quarter art, and a fridge humming with magnets from every jazz fest she'd attended. She dropped her bag, kicked off her shoes, and headed to the kitchen, needing the comfort of routine. Tonight wasn't about cooking for soulful bites, but she pulled out a box of keepsakes from under the sink anyway, searching for her mama's recipe book. Maybe a glimpse of Mama's handwriting would steady her. Instead, she found Mama's old journal, its leather cover worn soft from years of handling. Amara hesitated, then opened it, her fingers tracing the faded ink. The pages were a mix of recipes and reflections, each entry a snapshot of her mother's heart. One caught her eye, dated a month before Mama's cancer diagnosis. "Amara's got so much fire in her, but she holds back, afraid she ain't enough. I pray she lives bold, loves fierce, and cooks with all her soul. That's my girl's recipe for a good life." Tears pricked Amara's eyes. She closed the journal, clutching it to her chest. "I'm trying, Mama," she whispered, The doorbell rang at 7 sharp, pulling her back to the present. Hayden stood on her porch, his dark hair damp from the drizzle that had started to fall. He wore a simple gray sweater and jeans, no trace of the polished CEO, and his hazel eyes were shadowed with worry. "Amara," he said, stepping inside. "I messed up. I didn't know Talia sent that invite. She's been pulling stunts like this since college." Amara crossed her arms, leaning against the counter. "And you didn't notice her hanging all over you? I'm not blind, Hayden. I saw you laughing with her." Hayden ran a hand through his hair, his voice low. "She caught me off guard, talking about some old project we worked on. I wasn't laughing with her. I swear I'd never hurt you like that." He took a step closer, his gaze steady. "You're the one I want to be with, Amara. Not her." Her throat tightened. She wanted to believe him, but doubt clung like humidity. "Your world's so different. Hayden Gala's PR queens, billion-dollar deals. I'm just a teacher with a blog and a second-hand couch. How do I fit in? You fit because you're you," he said, his voice earnest. "Your kitchen, your laugh, your gumbo. That's more real than any gala I've ever been to. I don't want you to change. I just want us." The sincerity in his eyes chipped away at her defenses. She sighed, uncrossing her arms. "Okay, Kesler, but no more surprises. And you're helping me cook tonight to make up for it. Jambalaya, Mama's recipe. You up for it?" His face lit up, a grin breaking through. "Deal. But if I burn anything, you're firing me, right?" She laughed, the tension easing. "You're on thin ice, mister." They dove into the recipe, the kitchen filling with the sizzle of andouille sausage and the sharp tang of bell peppers. Amara's radio played a slow jazz ballad, and the rain outside pattered against the windows, cocooning them in a world of their own. Hayden chopped vegetables with slightly less surgical precision than last time, and Amara caught herself smiling as he asked, "Is this how you dice a pepper, or am I butchering it?" "You're getting there," she said, stirring the rice. "Mama'd give you a B-, harsh critic." Hayden teased, bumping her shoulder. Their eyes met, and for a moment the air hummed with possibility. But then the doorbell rang again, shattering the mood. Amara opened it to find Jasper Coleman, his chef's jacket splattered with sauce and a grin on his face. "Yo, Amara, I brought that hot sauce you wanted for the blog," he said, holding up a bottle. His gaze flicked to Hayden, and his grin faltered. "Didn't know you had company." "Jasper, you're a lifesaver," Amara said, taking the bottle. "This is Hayden. He's learning to cook." Hayden extended a hand. "Good to meet you. Heard you're the king of Creole cooking." Jasper shook it, his grip firm. "That's what they say. You holding up in Amara's kitchen?" "She's tougher than she looks." "Barely," Hayden said, chuckling. But there was a tightness in his jaw, a flicker of something Amara couldn't place. Jasper didn't stay long, promising to text about their next video shoot, but his departure left a subtle tension in the air. As they finished the jambalaya, Hayden's mood seemed to shift. "Jasper's a good guy," he said, his tone careful. "You two seem close." "We are," Amara said, plating the food. "He's like family." "Why?" Hayden shrugged, poking at his rice. "Just noticed how he looks at you, like he's got more than friendship on his mind." Amara's fork paused midair. "Jasper." "Nah, we're just friends. You're reading too much into it." But his words planted a seed of doubt. Had she missed something? She pushed it aside, focusing on the jambalaya, which was spicy, soulful, and damn near perfect. They ate at her small table, the rain now a steady drumbeat outside, and talked about safer things, her students, his latest project, their shared love of Ella Fitzgerald. But the week took a darker turn. On Monday, Amara was invited to a community fundraiser at the Tramy Food Bank, where she and her sister volunteered. Hayden had started helping out there too, introducing himself as H to keep things low-key. The event was a lively affair with kids running around, volunteers serving gumbo and a brass band playing in the corner. Amara was teaching a group how to make cornbread. When Talia Monroe strutted in her heels, clicking on the concrete floor, she carried a tray of store-bought cookies, her smile as fake as her eyelashes. Amara. "Darling," Talia said, setting the tray down. "I didn't know you'd be here." "Such a quaint little event." Amara's jaw tightened. "It's for the community." "Talia, something you might not get." Talia's laugh was sharp. "Oh, I get it. I'm here to support H's new hobby after all." She nodded toward Hayden, who was helping Mrs. Loretta sort canned goods. Before Amara could respond, Talia sauntered over to him, touching his arm and laughing too loudly. The volunteers whispered and Amara's stomach churned. Was Talia really here for Hayden? The tension boiled over when Talia, trying to impress the crowd, called the gumbo spicy soup during a toast. Amara and Nia, who just arrived, exchanged a look and burst out laughing, drawing stares. "Girl, she did not just say that," Nia whispered, nudging Amara. The moment broke the ice and Amara seized the chance to speak. She stepped to the center of the room, her voice steady. "This ain't just food, y'all. It's love. It's memory. It's us. My mama taught me that every pot of gumbo carries a story of family, of struggle, of joy. That's why we're here to share those stories and feed our community body and soul." The room erupted in applause, and Hayden's eyes locked on hers, filled with pride and something deeper. Talia's smile faltered, and she slipped out quietly. As the event wound down, Hayden found Amara by the cornbread station. "That was incredible," he said, his voice soft. "You're incredible." She blushed, brushing flour off her hands. "Just speaking my truth." The band struck up a slow tune, and without thinking, Hayden pulled her into a dance right there among the folding tables and paper plates. Their bodies swayed close and warm, and when he leaned down, their lips met in a kiss that tasted of cornbread and courage. The volunteers cheered and Amara laughed, her heart soaring. But the moment didn't last. Hayden Kesler, Hayden's older sister, appeared at the edge of the crowd, her tailored blazer and stern expression out of place in the lively chaos she'd been watching, and her disapproval was palpable. After the dance, she pulled Hayden aside, her voice low but sharp. "We need to talk about your friend. I've had her background checked. Hayden." "She's not who you think," Amara overheard just enough to feel her blood run cold. She slipped away, the rain now pouring outside, and Hayden caught up with her on the street, his sweater soaked. "Amara, wait. Evelyn's just protective. She doesn't know you. She had me investigated." Amara's voice shook rain, mixing with the tears in her eyes. "What am I to you, Hayden? A project? A fling?" "No," he said, stepping closer. "You're everything. I'm falling for you, Amara, and it scares the hell out of me." He cupped her face, his thumbs brushing away the rain, and kissed her deep and desperate as the storm raged around them. She kissed him back, her heart warring with her head, until a gust of wind sent something tumbling from his pocket. A folded document. Amara picked it up, her fingers trembling as she read the header in the dim streetlight. Kesler Enterprises Acquisition. Jones Family Foods, May 18th, 2020. Her breath caught. 5 years ago, her father's company had collapsed after his heart attack, and her family had never recovered, and Hayden's company was behind it. "What is this?" she demanded, her voice breaking. Hayden's face paled. "Amara, I can explain." "Explain what?" she snapped, stepping back. "That you knew who I was this whole time. Was this all a game to you?" She thrust the paper at him and turned, running into the rain, her heart shattering with every step. Back in her apartment, Amara sank onto the couch, the journal still open on the table. Mama's words stared back at her. "Live, bold love, fierce. But how could she love when trust was crumbling? She needed answers, and she'd get them from Hayden, from her father, from herself. The rain battered her windows, and the city's heartbeat pulsed on whispering that the hardest recipes always took the most time. The rain hadn't stopped since Friday night, and neither had the storm in Amara Jones's heart. Her bywater apartment felt emptier than ever, the walls echoing with the memory of Hayden Kesler's voice, his desperate plea under the streetlights, and the damning document she'd found in his pocket. Kesler Enterprises acquisition, Jones Family Foods, May 18th, 2020. 5 years ago, her father's heart attack had spiraled their family into chaos. Lost savings, mounting bills, her mother's stress fueling the cancer that took her life. Amara had always blamed the company that swooped in and bought Jones Family Foods for pennies, leaving her father broken. And now she knew that company was Hayden's. She sat on her sagging couch, Mama's journal open in her lap, its pages a lifeline she couldn't quite grasp. The words blurred through her tears. Live, bold, love, fierce. But how could she love when everything felt like a lie? Her phone buzzed relentlessly. Texts from Hayden, missed calls from Nia, but she ignored them, curling into herself as the rain battered her windows. The New Orleans night was alive outside with the wail of a trumpet from a nearby bar and the clatter of Mardi Gras beads against a neighbor's porch. But inside, Amara was drowning. Monday morning brought no relief. At Treme High, her students sensed her distraction. Their usual chatter subdued Ms. Jones. "You okay?" asked Kayla, her star poet lingering after class. "Just tired, baby," Amara lied, forcing a smile. "You got that sonnet ready for me?" Kayla nodded but didn't push, leaving Amara alone with her thoughts. She was grading papers in the teacher's lounge when her phone lit up with a news alert from the Times-Picayune billionaire Hayden Kesler's secret romance, tied to shady business deal. Her heart stopped. The byline was Micah Jones, her old college friend turned journalist who'd always chased the next big scoop. She clicked the link, her hands trembling. The article was a gut punch. It detailed how Kesler Enterprises had acquired Jones Family Foods days after Raymond Jones's heart attack, suggesting the deal was predatory, designed to exploit a vulnerable family. Worse, it implied Hayden had orchestrated his meeting with Amara to atone for past sins, citing their accidental email as suspiciously convenient. Anonymous sources likely, Talia Monroe. Amara guessed, claimed Hayden was using Amara to clean up his image. The article ended with a jab. Is Amara Jones a heartbroken daughter seeking revenge, or just another pawn in Kesler's empire? Amara's vision blurred with rage and betrayal. Micah had twisted her life into a tabloid headline, and Hayden had known who she was all along. The grocery list, the cooking lessons, the kisses were, they all part of some calculated redemption arc. She grabbed her bag and left school early, the humid air thick as she drove to Kesler Enterprises in the central business district. She needed answers, and she needed them now. The Kesler Enterprises tower was a sleek monolith of glass and steel, its lobby all marble and modern art, a far cry from Amara's bywater world. The receptionist, a young woman with a polished smile, recognized her immediately. "Ms. Jones, Mr. Kesler's in a meeting, but I'm sure he'd—" "I'll wait," Amara said. Her voice clipped. She sat in a leather chair, clutching her purse, the article's words burning in her mind. When Hayden finally emerged from the elevator, his face lit up, then fell as he saw her expression. "Amara," he said, hurrying over. "I've been trying to reach you. What's wrong?" She stood, thrusting her phone at him, the article glaring on the screen. Did you know who I was from the start? Was this all a game to you?" Hayden's eyes widened, his jaw tightening as he scanned the headline. "No, Amara. I swear I had no idea who you were when you sent that email. I didn't connect the dots until weeks later when I was reviewing old acquisition files. Weeks later." Her voice rose, drawing stares from passing employees. And you didn't think to tell me. My family lost everything because of your company. Hayden, my dad's heart attack, my mom's cancer. It all started with that deal, and you kept it secret. Hayden's face was ashen. I wanted to tell you. I tried, but every time I couldn't find the words, I was afraid of losing you, losing me. Amara laughed bitter and sharp. You lost me the moment you chose to hide the truth. Love doesn't work like that. We're done. She turned her sneakers squeaking on the marble floor and walked out, ignoring his calls after her. The city blurred past as she drove, tears streaming down her face. She ended up at the Treme food bank where the familiar chaos of volunteers and clanging pots grounded her. Mrs. Loretta, the Creole matriarch who ran the place, spotted her immediately. Child, you look like you've been through a hurricane, she said, pulling Amara into a hug that smelled of rue and lavender. Amara sank onto a stool, spilling everything. Hayden, the article, the acquisition. Mrs. Loretta listened, her dark eyes steady, then took Amara's hands. Love's like gumbo, baby. It takes time, heat, and a whole lot of trust to get right. I fell for my Henry 50 years ago, and we had our share of storms. But you gotta ask yourself, is this man worth stirring the pot for? I don't know, Amara whispered, her voice cracking. I thought he was different, but now it feels like a lie. Mrs. Loretta chuckled, patting her cheek. Ain't no lie in the way that boy looks at you. He's been coming here calling himself H, hauling cans like he ain't got $1 billion. But you gotta decide if your heart's open to his truth. She handed Amara a ladle. Now stir that gumbo. It'll clear your head. Amara managed a weak smile, stirring the pot as the rich, spicy aroma filled the air. Mrs. Loretta, ever the comedian, turned to a volunteer. Hayden, who'd just arrived, his face drawn. H, if you stir that roux like you did last week. Don't blame me when Treme calls you the billionaire who can't cook. The volunteers laughed, and Hayden's lips twitched, but his eyes stayed on Amara. She avoided his gaze, focusing on the gumbo until her shift ended. But as she stepped outside, the rain was back, a relentless downpour that soaked her instantly. She froze when she saw Hayden standing by her car, a reusable grocery tote in his hands, just like the first day they met. His sweater clung to his shoulders, his hair plastered to his forehead, and his voice was raw. Amara, please let me explain. I never meant to hurt you. Her chest ached, torn between love and betrayal. Explain what, Hayden? That you knew my family's pain and said nothing, that you let me fall for you while hiding this? She gestured to the tote, her voice breaking. What's in there? More groceries to fix everything? No, he said, stepping closer. Rain streaming down his face. Just me, begging for a chance to make this right. I love you, Amara. I should have told you, and I'll spend every day proving I'm not that man. Tears mixed with the rain on her cheeks. She wanted to believe him, to fall into his arms and forget the hurt. But the wound was too fresh, the doubt too heavy. I can't, she said, her voice barely audible. Not now. She turned, climbing into her car and shutting the door, leaving him standing in the storm. As she drove away, his silhouette blurred in her rearview mirror, and her heart shattered all over again. Back home, Amara curled up on her couch. Mama's journal untouched. Nia arrived an hour later, her curls damp and her eyes fierce. Girl, you look like you lost a fight with a hurricane, she said, tossing her jacket aside. Spill it. Amara recounted everything, the article, the confrontation, Hayden's plea. Nia listened, her usual sass softened by concern. Mike is a snake for that article, she said, shaking her head. But Hayden, I saw him at the food bank. Amara, man's been hauling beans and wiping counters like he's trying to earn your forgiveness. One can at a time. Doesn't sound like a game to me. Maybe. Amara said, her voice hollow. But he lied. Nia, how do I trust him again? Nia sighed, pulling her into a hug. You don't have to decide tonight. But don't let Micah or Talia steal your joy. You're Amara Jones, queen of gumbo and breaker of hearts. You'll figure this out. Amara managed a small laugh, but as Naya left, the silence closed in. She opened her phone, scrolling through the article again, its words like knives. Then she saw a new text from Jasper Coleman. Heard about the news. You okay? Come by the restaurant if you need to talk. She hesitated, then replied, Thanks, Jasper. I'm good. Just need time. But time felt like an enemy. The next day, Talia's influence crept in with paparazzi photos surfacing of her and Hayden at a charity lunch, their heads bent close. The caption screamed, Kesler moves on with PR. Maven. Amara's stomach twisted, though she knew Talia was likely orchestrating it. Still, the images hurt, feeding her doubts. That evening, Jasper invited her to his restaurant in the French Quarter, a cozy spot with exposed brick and jazz posters. He poured her a glass of wine, his dreads tied back, his smile gentle. You don't have to talk, he said, sliding a plate of étouffée her way. But I'm here. Amara took a sip, the wine warm and smooth. Thanks, Jasper. It's just a lot. Hayden. My dad's company. This article. I don't know what's real anymore. Jasper's eyes softened, and he reached across the table, covering her hand with his. You're real. Amara always have been. And if Kesler can't see that, he's a fool. His voice held an edge of something more, and Amara froze, realizing what she'd missed. Before she could respond, the restaurant door opened and Hayden stepped in his face, a mix of shock and pain, as he saw their hands. Amara, he said, his voice tight. I didn't know you'd be here. She pulled her hand back, her heart racing. Hayden, it's not. I'll go, he said, turning away. I just thought you should know. I'm fighting that article for us. He left the door swinging shut, and Amara's chest constricted. Jasper looked guilty, but she waved it off, too overwhelmed to deal with it. As she walked home, the New Orleans night wrapped around her, trumpets, wailing streetlights flickering the city's pulse steady despite her chaos. She thought of Mama's journal, of Mrs. Loretta's words, of Hayden's rain-soaked plea. Love was like gumbo, messy and slow. But was it worth the burn? Amara didn't know. But as she climbed her porch steps, one thing was clear. She couldn't run from the truth forever. Amara Jones woke to the sound of rain, softer now, a gentle patter against her Bywater apartment's windows. The storm that had raged all weekend was fading, but the one inside her lingered. Her couch was littered with tissues. Mama's journal open to a page she'd read a dozen times. Live, bold, love, fierce. The words felt like a challenge she wasn't sure she could meet. Hayden Kesler's rain-soaked plea outside her car, his silhouette blurred in her rearview mirror, haunted her. So did Micah Jones's article, its lies twisting her family's pain into a headline. Was Hayden a liar, or had she judged him too quickly? Her phone buzzed with a text from Nia Carter. Girl, check your email. Micah's doubling down. Amara's stomach dropped. She opened her inbox to find a message from Micah, subject line, a chance to comment. The email was curt, offering her a chance to respond before he published a follow-up piece. Attached was a draft even more sensational than the first, claiming Amara was colluding with Hayden to cover up Kesler Enterprises' shady past. She slammed her laptop shut, her hands shaking. Micah had been her friend in college, always ambitious, but never cruel. What had changed? She needed clarity, and there was only one place to start: her father. Raymond Jones lived in Algiers across the Mississippi in a modest shotgun house with a backyard full of magnolias. Amara drove over the ferry ride, giving her time to think. The river churned below its gray surface, mirroring her mood, while the New Orleans skyline glittered in the distance, a reminder of the city's resilience. She clung to that thought as she knocked on her father's door. Raymond answered, his face lined with years of regret. "Amara, baby," he said, pulling her into a hug. "You look like you ain't slept in a week." "I haven't," she admitted, sinking into a chair at his kitchen table. The room smelled of coffee and cornbread, a comfort that grounded her dad. "I need the truth about Jones Family Foods. Micah's article says Kesler Enterprises took advantage of you when you had your heart attack. Is that what happened?" Raymond's shoulders sagged and he sat across from her, his hands clasped tight. "I owe you an apology, Amara. I let you and your sister believe that story because it was easier than the truth." He took a deep breath. "The company was failing long before my heart attack. Bad investments, too much debt. I mismanaged it all. We were weeks from bankruptcy when Kesler Enterprises made their offer. That deal paid off our debts, kept us afloat. It wasn't predatory. It was a lifeline." Amara stared, her mind reeling. "Why didn't you tell me? All these years I thought they stole your dream." "Shame," Raymond said, his voice breaking. "Your granddaddy built that company and I let it crumble. Blaming Kesler was easier than admitting I failed. I'm sorry, baby." Tears stung her eyes, but they weren't just for her father's confession. The weight of her anger toward Hayden shifted, cracking under the truth. If the acquisition wasn't predatory, then Hayden hadn't destroyed her family. But why hadn't he told her about the connection? She hugged her father, promising to talk more later, and drove back to the city, her resolve hardening. She needed to confront Micah and then Hayden. Micah's office was a cramped space in the Marigny, littered with coffee cups and stacks of newspapers. He looked up from his laptop, surprise flickering across his face as Amara stormed in. "Amara, I wasn't expecting." "Save it." She cut him off, tossing a printout of his draft onto his desk. "This is garbage. Micah, half of it's lies and you know it. Where's your proof that Hayden targeted me? Show me." Micah shifted, his confidence faltering. It's an angle. The timing of your email, the acquisition, it's too convenient. Readers love a conspiracy." "An angle." Amara's voice rose. "You're dragging my family through the mud for clicks. My dad just told me the truth. Jones Family Foods was failing. Kesler's deal saved us. You got nothing but speculation." Micah rubbed his neck, avoiding her gaze. "I needed a break, Amara. This story could have been my ticket. I didn't mean to hurt you." "You did," she said, her voice steady but cold. "And if you publish this, I'll sue you for defamation. So will Kesler Enterprises. Think that'll help your career?" She turned to leave, then paused. "We were friends, Micah. You could have asked me for the truth." Back in her car, Amara's hands trembled on the steering wheel. The confrontation had cleared one fog, but another remained. Hayden. She drove to Kesler Enterprises, the glass tower looming against a now clearing sky. The receptionist waved her through, and Amara found Hayden in his office, a sprawling space with floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the Mississippi. Unlike the sterile lobby, his desk held personal touches. A photo of his nonna, a potted basil plant, a cookbook she'd given him propped open to her gumbo recipe. "Amara," he said, standing as she entered, his face a mix of hope and fear. "I've been trying to reach you. I'm so sorry about the article. My PR team's handling it, but—" "Stop," she said, closing the door. "I talked to my dad. He told me the truth about the company. You didn't ruin us. But why didn't you tell me you knew about the acquisition? When did you figure out who I was?" Hayden sighed, running a hand through his hair. "About 3 weeks after we met, I was reviewing old files for a board presentation and your last name popped up. It took me a few days to confirm it was your family. I should have told you right then, but I didn't know how. At first you were just a stranger with a grocery list. Then you became everything. I was terrified of losing you." Amara's chest tightened, her anger warring with the pull of his words. You should have trusted me, Hayden. My family's pain was real, and you let me believe you had no part in it. I know, he said, his voice strained. It was wrong, and I'll carry that regret forever. But I swear our meeting was an accident. Every moment with you, every laugh, every kiss was real. He stepped closer, his eyes searching hers. I love you, Amara. I should have said it sooner. The words hit like a wave, stealing her breath. She'd felt it too in the quiet moments in her kitchen, in the way he looked at her at the food bank. But trust was a fragile thing, and hers was bruised. I talked to Micah. She said, her voice softer now. His article's mostly lies. I stopped him, but the damage is done. People are talking my students, my principal, even my ex. And Talia's out there making it look like you've moved on. Hayden's jaw clenched. Talia's desperate for attention. I haven't spoken to her since the food bank. My team's drafting a statement, but I wanted to talk to you first. What do you want to do? Amara looked at him. Really looked at him. The man who'd shown up with groceries, who'd danced with her at the food bank, who'd stood in the rain begging for her forgiveness. Her heart ached, but it also hoped. I want the truth out there, she said. Not your PR team's version. Ours. Hayden nodded, a spark of determination in his eyes. Your blog. We could tell our story, the email, the gumbo. Everything. No secrets. The idea ignited something in her. Soulful bites was her voice, her truth. Okay, she said. But first, I need to know we're in this together. No more hiding. We are, he said, closing the distance between them. I promise. His hands found her face, and he kissed her a fierce, hungry kiss that poured out everything. Regret, love, hope. Amara kissed him back, her fingers curling into his sweater, the world narrowing to the heat of his touch. They stumbled to the office's sleek leather sofa, her jacket falling, his shirt buttons loosening under her hands. She pulled him closer, her voice a whisper against his ear. If you break my heart again, Kesler, I'm tossing you in the oven with the next gumbo. He laughed, breathless, his hands warm on her waist. Noted, but this sofa's killing me. They collapsed, tangled and giggling, the moment raw and real, a promise sealed in the chaos of their love. When they finally sat up, flushed and disheveled, Amara felt lighter, like the rain had washed away some of the hurt. They spent the evening drafting the blog post, their words weaving a story of chance cooking and redemption. But the outside world wasn't done with them. Talia Monroe, sensing her influence slipping, leaked more photos to the press stage shots of her and Hayden at a recent event captioned, Kesler's Old Flame Reignites. Amara saw them on her phone and shook her head. She's relentless. Let her try. Hayden said, his voice firm. We're telling the truth. That's stronger than her lies. The next day, Amara visited the Treem food bank, needing the comfort of its familiar chaos. Mrs. Loretta was there, directing volunteers with her usual sass. Hayden Kesler. Hayden's sister surprised everyone by showing up her tailored blazer swapped for a t-shirt. She approached Amara holding a tray of cornbread that looked suspiciously like a brick. I tried your recipe? Evelyn said, her voice stiff. It's not great, but it's an apology. I was wrong about you. Amara raised an eyebrow, taking the tray. This is harder than my principal's heart. Evelyn. Mrs. Loretta cackled nearby, muttering, Lula suit thì giỏi cãi, nhưng bánh mềm thì để tôi dạy cô. The volunteers laughed, and Amara softened, accepting the gesture. Thanks, Evelyn. Let's start over. Jasper Coleman arrived later carrying a pot of etouffee for the food bank. He pulled Amara aside, his expression serious. I saw the article and I owe you an apology. I let my feelings get in the way at the restaurant. You and Hayden, you're the real deal. I'm happy for you. Amara hugged him, her throat tight. Your family. Jasper. always will be. He nodded his smile, bittersweet, and returned to the kitchen, leaving her with a sense of closure. That night, Amara and Hayden posted the market list on Soulful Bites. The article was raw and honest, detailing their accidental meeting, their cooking lessons, the acquisition, misunderstanding, and their love. "We're not perfect," they wrote, "but we're real, and we're choosing each other every day." By morning, the post had gone viral, shared across social media with hashtags like #MarketListLove and #New Orleans. Romance comments poured in. "This is the sweetest thing I've ever read. Y'all are goals." Micah's article was buried, reduced to a footnote in a bigger, brighter story. As Amara read the responses, her heart swelled. She looked at Hayden, who was sprawled on her couch, scrolling through the comments with a grin. "We did it," she said, leaning against him. "We're just getting started," he replied, kissing her forehead. The rain had stopped, and the New Orleans night hummed outside, alive with possibility. Amara didn't have all the answers, but for the first time in days, she felt like she could breathe. Love was messy, like a pot of gumbo left too long on the stove, but with the right ingredients, truth, trust, and a pinch of courage, it could be delicious. Amara Jones stood in the kitchen of Hayden Kesler's Garden District mansion, a far cry from her cozy Bywater apartment. The space was a chef's dream. Marble countertops, copper pots hanging from a rack, a double oven that could probably launch a rocket. But it wasn't the fancy appliances that made her heart race. It was the way the room now felt like home, with her cookbooks lining new shelves. Hayden had built her vintage plates stacked beside his sleek ones, and a fridge magnet from the Tremy food bank stuck proudly on the door. 6 months after their viral blog post, the market list. Amara had moved in her life, intertwining with Hayden's in ways she'd never imagined. The New Orleans evening hummed outside the air, thick with the promise of Mardi Gras. Distant brass bands practiced for the parades, and the scent of beignets drifted from a nearby cafe. Amara was prepping for a cooking class at the food bank, stirring a pot of gumbo, while Hayden chopped okra at her side. His knife skills had improved, no more surgical precision, just steady, practiced cuts. She caught his eye and grinned. "You're almost a Creole chef now. Kesler, Mom'd give you a solid B+. Hayden laughed, his hazel eyes crinkling. "High praise from the queen of gumbo, but don't get cocky. I'm catching up." He bumped her hip and she swatted him with a dish towel, their banter as easy as the Zydeco tune playing on the radio. The past 6 months hadn't been perfect, but they'd been real. Amara had started culinary school, paying her way with Soulful Bites sponsorships, while Hayden restructured his schedule to spend more time at the food bank, still introducing himself as H to keep things humble. Their viral blog post had changed everything. The world had fallen in love with their story, an accidental email, a grocery list, a romance born in a Bywater kitchen. Micah's smear campaign had fizzled, and Soulful Bites was thriving with brands clamoring for Amara's recipes. But the real victory was their love, forged through storms of doubt and truth. They'd faced Talia's schemes, Evelyn's skepticism, and Jasper's unspoken feelings emerging stronger each time. Tonight, though, Amara sensed something different in Hayden. He was fidgety, stealing glances when he thought she wasn't looking. "You okay?" she asked, stirring the gumbo. "You're acting like you're hiding a secret ingredient." He flashed a nervous smile. "Just excited for Mardi Gras. Big night, right?" "Sure is," she said, raising an eyebrow. Mardi Gras was New Orleans' heartbeat, and they'd planned to watch the parades with Nia and Jasper. But Hayden's jittery energy felt like more than festival hype. She let it go, focusing on the gumbo's rich, spicy aroma, a reminder of Mama's kitchen and the love that had carried her this far. The Tremy food bank was a whirlwind of activity when they arrived. Volunteers bustling under strings of purple, green, and gold beads. Mrs. Loretta, ever the Creole queen, directed the chaos with a ladle in one hand and a grin on her face. "Y'all brought the gumbo," She called spotting Amara and Hayden. "Better be as good as last time, or I'm demoting you to dish duty." Hayden mock saluted, setting the pot on a table. "Wouldn't dare disappoint you. Mrs. Loretta?" She cackled, waving him off, and Amara felt a swell of pride. This place with its laughter and shared meals was their anchor, a testament to the community they'd built together. The cooking class was a hit, with families learning to make cornbread and gumbo under Amara's guidance. Hayden assisted passing out ingredients and cracking jokes that earned him grins from the kids. Amara watched him, her heart full. He wasn't just the billionaire CEO anymore. He was H, the guy who hauled cans and stirred roux, the man she loved. As the class wrapped, Talia Monroe appeared at the door, a sight that made Amara's stomach lurch. Talia's designer coat was out of place among the folding tables, but her usual smirk was gone, replaced by something softer. She approached Amara, her voice low. "Can we talk?" Amara hesitated, then nodded, stepping outside. The night air was cool, laced with the distant thump of parade drums. Talia took a deep breath. "I owe you an apology. I was jealous of your realness, your connection with Hayden. I tried to tear you down, and I'm sorry." Amara studied her, surprised by the sincerity. "Why now, Talia?" Talia shrugged a wry smile, tugging at her lips. "Seeing you two at the food bank building something real. It made me realize I was chasing the wrong things. I'm trying to do better." She extended a hand. "Truce." Amara shook it. "A weightlifting truce. But don't expect me to teach you how to make gumbo." Talia laughed, a genuine sound. "Fair enough." She left, and Amara returned inside, feeling lighter. Forgiveness, she realized, was as much for herself as for Talia. Jasper Coleman arrived next, carrying a tray of étouffée that drew cheers from the volunteers. He caught Amara's eye, his grin as warm as ever. "Heard you're killing it at culinary school," he said, setting the tray down. "Proud of you, Amara." "Thanks, Jasper," she said, hugging him. His support meant the world, especially after their awkward moment at his restaurant. He'd stepped back gracefully, and their friendship was stronger for it. Hayden Kesler. Hayden's sister was the surprise of the night. She'd become a regular at the food bank, trading her lawyer suits for jeans and a willingness to learn. She approached Amara with a shy smile, holding a Tupperware container. "I tried your cornbread again," she said. "It's edible this time." Amara peeked inside, chuckling at the slightly lopsided squares. "Progress." "Evelyn." "You're getting there, Mrs." Loretta, overhearing, piped up. "Child, you keep practicing, and we'll make a Creole out of you yet." The room erupted in laughter, and Evelyn's cheeks flushed, but she joined in her walls, finally down. As the night wound down, Hayden pulled Amara aside, his hand warm in hers. "I've got a surprise," he said, his voice nervous. "Can you come with me?" Curious. She followed him to his mansion, where the lights were dimmed and a trail of candles led to the back terrace. Her breath caught. The terrace was set with a small table for two draped in white linen, with a familiar, reusable grocery tote on one chair. The New Orleans skyline sparkled below, and the faint boom of Mardi Gras fireworks lit the sky. "What's this?" Amara asked, her heart racing as Hayden guided her to the table. "A trip back to the beginning," he said, gesturing to the tote. "I brought groceries." He opened it, revealing the exact items from her original list. "Tome tuebot sande haute, cayenne. I thought we could make your mama's gumbo together for old time's sake." Amara's eyes misted, touched by the thoughtfulness. "You're something else." Kesler. They cooked in the mansion's kitchen, moving in sync, their laughter mingling with the sizzle of roux. Hayden's cuts were confident now, a far cry from his early disasters, and Amara teased, "You're gonna put me out of a job." "Never," he said, his gaze soft, as the gumbo simmered, filling the air with its smoky, spicy warmth. Hayden cleared his throat, his hands fidgeting. I have one more thing for you. A grocery list of my own. He handed her a folded piece of paper, his expression a mix of nerves and hope. Amara unfolded it, her breath catching at the neatly typed words. White gold ring, 1 diamond, not too big, not too small. Promise of forever, 1 answer, hopefully. Yes, she looked up to find Hayden kneeling before her, a small velvet box in his hand. Amara Jones, he said, his voice thick with emotion. You came into my life with a grocery list and turned my world upside down. You taught me to cook, to love, to live outside the office. You're my home, my heart, my everything. Will you marry me? Tears streamed down her face, joy overwhelming her. Yes, she whispered, then louder. Yes. Hayden slipped the ring onto her finger, a simple, elegant diamond on a white gold band, perfect in its understated beauty. He stood pulling her into his arms, and they kissed, a deep, soulful kiss that tasted of gumbo and forever. Fireworks exploded above the Mardi Gras sky, ablaze with color, and Amara laughed through her tears, the city celebrating with them. They moved to the table sharing the gumbo under the stars, the flavors a bridge to Mama's kitchen and their future. This is perfect, Amara said, admiring the ring. But you know what this means, right? What Hayden asked, his arm around her. We're gonna need a killer grocery list for the wedding menu, she said, grinning. He laughed, the sound warm and full. As long as you're writing it, I'm not taking any chances. The impromptu engagement party came together that night with Nia, Jasper, Evelyn, and even Mrs. Loretta crowding into the mansion's living room. Nia raised a glass, her curls bouncing as she toasted. To Amara and Hayden, proof that love's the best recipe. Jasper, true to form, spilled wine on his shirt, mid-toast, declaring, I'm still the best chef here. To raucous laughter. Evelyn shared a quiet moment with Amara, offering to help plan the wedding. Her once stern demeanor now soft and open. Mrs. Loretta pulled Amara aside, her eyes twinkling. Your mama's smiling down, child. You stirred that pot just right. Amara hugged her, tears welling again. Thanks, Mrs. Loretta, for everything. As the party wound down, Amara and Hayden stood on the terrace, watching the last fireworks fade. The city pulsed below its jazz and joy, a backdrop to their love. An accidental email, a grocery list, a knock at the door. Life had taken Amara on a wild ride, but it had led her here to a man who saw her flaws and all and chose her every day. She leaned into Hayden, his warmth grounding her, and knew that whatever recipe life cooked up next, they'd face it together with love, laughter, and a pinch of Creole magic. Hey, y'all. Thanks for joining Amara and Hayden on this incredible journey. If their story warmed your heart like a bowl of gumbo, hit that subscribe button. Share it with your friends and drop a comment with your favorite New Orleans dish or love story moment. Who knows? Maybe your next grocery list will spark something magical. Keep cooking, keep loving, and we'll see you soon.